I'm assuming this is going to be a really fun video. The one on the left is the Amazon Kindle Scribe. This is an e-note, the first e-note ever released by Amazon. Technically, this is the Scribe 2 in Jade, so it's the latest possible 2024-2025 device you could buy. This is the Fujitsu Quaderno A5. The reason we're not putting up the 13.3 against this is because this is 10.3, this is 10.2. They're very similar in that regard. So what this is a non-glow light color Kaleido 3 e-note, and they're very similar but very different at the exact same time, and we'll explain throughout the video. Looking at the Kindle Scribe first, it's very robust. It has an aluminum build, the whole backing is aluminum, and it has these little rubber stoppers that give it a little bit of height against where you're putting it down on, and it prevents the back from scratching, and it also prevents it from moving around. So if I put it on there, it's not going to move. In fact, it's shaking the whole review table. On the side, we have a USB-C, we have a power button, and that's basically it. Now, this does come with Bluetooth, which can be used for audiobooks, and unfortunately, the Quaderno cannot do that. This also comes with the Amazon Kindle stylus. Now, for this video, we're just going to use the Kindle stylus. We're not going to use this stylus. Reason being, we're going to keep it completely fair, and this is the more advanced pen and can be used on both devices, vice versa. Both of these pens can be used on either because they're all running Wacom. Now for the Quaderno. The Quaderno is a little bit more of a subtle build. The back is just plastic all the way through. You have a little logo on the middle and a identifying serial number and characteristics on the bottom. Everything happens up top. You have the USB-C, you have the reset button, and you have the power button with the indicator light as well as the lanyard loop. This thing is incredibly light, it's incredibly thin, and it is very flexible at the same time too. However, there is no glow light. Now, there is one thing that you'll see throughout this video is how high the screen is towards you. And throughout this video, we're going to look on basically three aspects to compare: the screen, the ebook reading experience, and the note-taking features. How can these be used to take notes? What kind of palette do you get? That's what we're going to be focusing on. So without further ado, this is what the screen looks like side by side. Now, there is one huge benefit of the Quaderno, is that the screen is so far up, but the Scribe is so far away, and we will explain immediately. This is a big downfall of the Scribe. So if you look right here, there is a huge gap. I'm talking a full millimeter gap between the outside bezel and the screen. And it is flush. It's a complete flush screen, but look how deep that is. Sometimes certain things, if they're not formatted properly, will actually creep under the side like an onyx and get lost under there. That's a huge problem because obviously we're nitpicking, but it does look like the screen is further away. If we catch some light here, you'll see that there is just a massive gap there. But that's because they have to accommodate for the glass layer and the glow light layer, which this does not have. This is a plastic screen, which means you're going to get one of the best writing feels in the market. Look at this. That is there's almost no space between the screen itself and the bezel. It's absolutely right up to the surface. So it's a very realistic experience in that it's right up against the top. It's like you're writing on a piece of paper. And that reflects into the note-taking feel as well, because this is more on the glass side, because it is glass, and this is going to be more on the plastic side because it's plastic. It's flexible screen. The Kindle is not flexible. You do not want to do that. You'll get cracks and runs in the screen. We will get into note-taking in just 1 minute, but we want to show you the differences in the overall screen color. This is as bright as it's going to get, and this is not as bright as it's going to get. This is as dark as it will get. If we put this piece of paper for white balance, you'll see that neither of these are white. In fact, the background here is white going down to this. This is a little bit more blue. It's got a little bit more Arctic in it, so it's not quite white either, but the screen is almost definitely not white. So why is this? This is because this is running a Kaleido screen with no glow light. A recipe for disaster inherently. However, it does give you a really good, like we said, realism. It's plastic. They have to have less stuff in front of the screen, but with that comes a very dark and dim environment. Whereas on the Kindle, it is fairly dark, of course, but you can up the brightness. And when you up the brightness, you can also deal with the warm light as well. So you can make it very orange, you can make it very blue, or very stone, kind of somewhere in the middle. And then when you do that, this looks like a tablet is on, but it's using less batteries. So by comparison, this thing gets absolutely shadowed, and it is on. Trust us, if you tap the screen and you get your elements up top, it's ready to go. So that's why we're gonna have the glow light off for this video, because it absolutely destroys the Quaderno in terms of vividness and the overall colors. We'll just show you though that the Kindle is a little bit more reflective. So you see you have a big solid square in the middle there, and it is kind of diffusing the light pretty well, but it interrupts what's on the screen. Now, there is a top coat protected layer that also gives you a little bit of realism when you're writing, but nothing compared to the Quaderno. The Quaderno does absorb the light a little bit more. You can see there's less of an actual prominent square, and it's more diffused and feathered. So with that, you can actually rest assured that this is going to look better when it comes to the overall visuals, not so much the quality. It's just there's less interruption with the reflectivity. The Kindle Scribe is 300 ppi. That's just done. This is actually only 227 ppi and 113 ppi in color. So you actually do have two metrics you have to focus on when it comes to that. But overall, the screen is higher and less reflective on the Quaderno, and this is just has more obstruction, it's more glass-like, and is further away. So that's the core differences between the actual screen panels themselves. Now for the fun part, the note-taking section. These two are very fitting to put up against each other because neither of them can really do anything. For example, on the Kindle we have pen, fountain pen, marker, pencil, couple thicknesses. Then you have eraser, highlighter, eraser, lanyard, and touch or don't touch the screen. That's it. The three dots just give you move it to the right side. And guess what? Doesn't get much better on the Quaderno. You have a couple styles of pens, you have highlighter, and you have eraser. Although you get 3 quick key colors that you can expand into 8 different colors, well, including white. And then you get some line thicknesses. That's pretty much it. In fact, outside of the actual palette, the Quaderno is more capable, and we'll show you right now. So first we'll just do some light drawing just to show you guys what's all going on. You get fountain pen, you get pretty good latency, and on here let's just go regular fountain, black, and we'll go mid. So then see, the latency is just about the same. This probably starts quicker. This one takes a second, but then once you get writing, once it triggers, it's all good. You do get pressure sensitivity on both too. So if you draw lightly, you can do super hairlines, or you can do thicker bleeds. So in that regard, they're pretty much the same. When it comes to feeling, not even close. The Kindle just cannot hold a candle to the Quaderno. On the Kindle, it's very slippery. It's a very glass-like feel, because it is glass. It's just sliding around. There's no torque, there's no feeling vibrating through the pen whatsoever. And it's the same thing if we use this pen. It's the same exact thing. They both use the same tips from the same Wacom facility. These are the graphite palm composites. It's just a very poor realism. Now, I'm not going to say it's a poor writing experience, because that's not fair. Some people like a slipperier kind of tablet-like experience. But when it comes here, we've just reviewed it time and time again. We've compared it time and time again, and we'll let you listen in a second. But my goodness, that is just like writing on a piece of paper. It feels just as good with this pen. It'll probably feel better with other pens on the market. Like if you use a Stadler with a rubber eraser at the back, you might even get a better feel. But it's just so good. It's so good, because no one uses plastic screens anymore. In fact, even Supernote, they have 2 different types of devices, a big one, a small one. One of them uses glass, one of them uses plastic, but they still put a rubber screen protector on both, so that point is moot. But when it comes to devices like this, they're actually using plastic. It's an old school approach that dates back to the Sony DPT S1 that just simply no one uses anymore. So in that regard, the Amazon just cannot stand up to the Quaderno. This is just a mountain between the two when it comes to the overall feel. Now, we can't show you this on the Kindle, obviously, but we do have color here too. So with Kaleido, you can make color notes because that's the whole point. The point is to give you the ability to add colors, overlap colors, and it's not a sloshy mix like some other competing technologies. It's actually, there's quite a solid and clear dividing line between the colors you put on the screen. So it's a matter of, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Now that kind of goes away a little bit because the mentality is that, sure, I have this color at my disposal, but at the expense of my screen. If this had a glow light, which the trade show prototype said they were going to put one on the A5, they ended up not putting one, and we don't understand why. But outside of that, we have some additional features here. And we won't touch on all of these, but we will touch on one, which is display documents side by side. And why this is important is because the Kindle doesn't even have this. Now, this makes more sense on the 13.3, believe me. But what this is it splits the operating system into two. You'll see that you have control over both sides, and both of them can show your entire device. So on this side, we've just opened up an infographic PDF, and on this side we have the note taking. But we can go a step further and we can put a PDF ebook on this side and then have an infographic on this side, and they're both completely usable autonomously, and we can do what we want on either side. It's a really good feature to have, something that gets a little bit lost on the smaller version because each side is quite small, but overall it's a great feature to have. You can split your OS and make essentially two 6-inch readers side by side. And although Fujitsu is a little bit better of a note taker with its overall functionality, it just can't read books. It can. You can just download PDF books and you can see they work perfectly fine. You can turn pages, you can adjust the zoom, you can make highlights. We'll show you all that in a second. But when it comes down to it, it's not an ebook reader, whereas this technically isn't either. It's focused to be an e-note, which is why it's as big as it is, which is why it has pens, which is why it has a Wacom layer. And it comes with a pen too. It's not like some of the Libra Color devices by Kobo and Tolino, and they have to have you buy the pen separately. This comes with a pen. Now, the thing about it is that this is a true ebook reader. For example, you can long press on something and it's going to give you information. It's going to allow you to annotate, share. You can look up things on Wikipedia and translations, and there's just so much more of an integrated look towards things, and you can change things from the font, the themes, the layout, and you have reading settings. It is a true ebook reading experience on here, whereas this isn't. This is barely irking by to allow you to read a book. The battery's low, but that's cool. Now, if you press the side button, you can do highlights, and highlights are quite nice. In fact, this does colored highlights, which this can't do, of course, but you can still do highlights all the same. Now, you can make notes on both of these, and they're pretty much equal. There's no real benefit or pros and cons to either one, and none of them do shaping or anything. So if you make a star, it's not going to become a perfect star or anything like that. So when it comes down to it, this is not an ebook reader, although you kind of can read books. Gun to your head, you could, but there's a lot lost. Like, there's no long press or anything like that because there's no reason to be. There's no other integrations to allow you to share passages and translate and do anything else with that. It really is just, you put a PDF on here, oh, it's an ebook, okay, it works, that kind of thing. but it is most definitely not set up to be one. You just can't do anything. You can't look at any of the table of contents or do quick navigation or change any of the layout, like we said, the orientation, the alignment, the column, the margins. It's just, this is what it is, and this is how it is. And in fact, it doesn't matter if you have an ebook, if you have a PDF, if you have anything else, it's going to be the exact same palette, because they just have one PDF engine on this thing, blanket across the board. Now, these are the two differences between these two units. Now, they're the same in the regard that they're the same size, they're close, kinda, in PPI, and they both come from massive manufacturers. But when it comes down to the differences of where they are catered to, who they are catered to, where they belong, this is a productivity unit that has NFC card unlock, password encryption, and it is just meant to be for work purposes. That's where its humble beginnings were from. Whereas this is just a very large Kindle with a Wacom layer. So you can take that with a grain of salt. You can take this video for what it is, and if you want either of these, details are down below.